A new study from BlackRock found that only 56% of Americans say they feel on track for retirement. That's an 11% decline from 2022. For more on this report, we're joined for an exclusive interview with Ackerley, the head of BlackRock's retirement group. And obviously, BlackRock is a huge player in retirement with a huge reach. And it's great to see you again. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you so much for having me, and so glad to be here to talk about retirement.
That number is alarming, right? Only 56% of people think that they're on track. What do you think is behind that unease, and especially the big change year over year?
Right. So we've been doing this survey, Read on Retirement, for 8 years, and this is the lowest it's ever been. As you said, only 56% of people, American workers, think they're on track for having the retirement they want to have. And in particular, we saw this enormous drop in Gen Z. So what's driving this? Well, it's really the market environment, right? There's been market volatility, inflation. People are concerned now about running out of money. I think anybody who lived through last year with both stocks and bonds being down, it was just a really hard year. And I think people are reflecting that in terms of their confidence in retirement.
How can one get back on track? What steps do they need to take?
So great question. One thing, and there was some good news in the survey that we did, workers did not reduce their contributions. So one of the most important things during this market volatility, these hard times, is to keep contributing. And we actually saw that people did that. Instead, they maybe didn't go on vacation, they maybe didn't buy a large item, so they reduced their spending so they could continue to contribute. One thing I would want to call out, so that was really good. Two things I would say is, one thing I did think was disturbing, when you looked at Gen Z, again, our youngest workers, 60% said they might consider selling during a market downturn. Only 20% of baby boomers said that. I would say to those Gen Zers, don't sell. You got to ride through this. You know, they just haven't lived through as many market cycles as maybe some more experienced older workers. So please, please, please don't sell. Ride through it. Continue to contribute. Continue to dollar cost average. When we turn to baby boomers, 36% of them said they were considering delaying retirement. So you ask, how do people get on track? You know, in an ideal world, people would retire at the age they want to. But given this market volatility, it may not be the worst thing to think a little bit about delaying retirement, if they can, not everybody can, continuing to earn some money and not spend. And maybe if you delay retirement, you can even put off taking Social Security, and that will ultimately increase your Social Security payment as well. So there are things people can do to be back on track. But we need to realize this is a tough time for people with respect to retirement savings.
I mean, it's so interesting, too, because the last 2 years have illustrated to people the value of hanging on, right? Because last year was down, but this year a lot of that stuff has come back. Yeah. One of the other interesting things that stood out to me in the report was the bit about guaranteed income solutions, which sort of harkens back to the pension days, right? So guaranteed pension days. So are there more options now that sort of mimic that effect, that you know the money is going to be there, at least some portion of it?
So what I would say is savers, workers are asking for it. 90% of savers would like to see some form of guaranteed income in their 401k. And we know that employers are beginning to look at this.
So just to back up for 2 seconds, what does guaranteed income mean? What do people need to know about it?
Sure. I mean, in a sense, it's an annuity. Right? Now, I know people don't like annuities. They think they're high-priced or they're complex. What is happening in the 401k space is there's been a lot of innovation, and pricing of annuities has come down. You can make them much simpler. And so the concept would be that within the 401k, you would have an option to choose for some part of your savings to buy an annuity. It might even be embedded in the target date. And so savers want it. Workers want it. Employers are beginning to think about it, and we are starting to see some employers add a form of guaranteed savings into the 401k.
What are some of the biggest questions you've been getting from folks right now on retirement?
Sure. I mean, the number one thing, right, is how big does my nest egg need to be? You know, what does that nest egg what will it earn in retirement, right? How much will I be able to spend? So that's a big range of questions. I'd also say just basics. People, and this is 71% of Gen Z, said they didn't know enough about investments to feel confident within their 401k. Now that's 50% of baby boomers, so maybe again with a little wisdom you learn a little more. But even the basics of what do I invest in, workers want advice and education, and they want it from their employers.
And are more employers offering that kind of advice?
Yes, 100%. 98% of the employers we surveyed said they feel responsible for their employees' financial well-being. And yes, we're starting to see more programs around financial wellness, more education, and I would just encourage employers in this kind of volatile time, you know, the down and the up and inflation, education, advice, offer it, you know, short videos on your internet. People are really looking to their employers for this kind of advice because they trust their employers.
Really interesting stuff and important stuff.
Important stuff.
For a lot of people. I love this report when we get it. It has really good insights. And I love seeing you. Thanks for coming in, and I appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me.